Hey, Shanti.
Are you here now again?
สวัสดีค่ะสวัสดี
Sawadika.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Sawadika.
Adhika and everyone.
สวัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์
Morning, Alberto. Morning, everyone who's just joined. Are you here now again?
สวัสดีครับ
yes สวัสดีค่ะสวัสดี
Sawadika.
สวัสดี
สวัสดีค่ะท่านอาจารย์
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
สวัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์
shall we start
Ina, do you have a topic you'd like to start with?
Well, I read on DSG a very good post by Jonathan, because he explained that we can use the phrase, there is nobody there to do anything. But if people don't use carefully all the explanations by Ajahn, that are conditions and what conditions are, and they just hear the phrase, they take it in the wrong way. And I found that a very good point, because we need a lot of listening again and again. And Ajahn always says, realities are so subtle, and it is necessary to consider each reality carefully and not just the word, but understand the meaning. So we can always hear the phrase, nobody there is nobody, and there can so easily be misunderstandings. So I found that a very good point, a helpful point that Jonathan brought on DSC.
so is there anyone now
So if we know the background on all your explanations, then it is full of meaning that there is nobody here. But without listening, many times one should listen, not just once, then it becomes more clearly.
that's why it has to be very firm confidence as parami just to understand, that's all, because our dhammas are very, very subtle. Even we say there is only seeing right now, seeing cannot be taken for anyone, but it's not yet as it is to be known precisely what is meant by no one. That's why all depends on understanding the truth gradually, little by little, that what is there now is that which can be known, but not now. It's only Panya which begins to let go ignorance of taking it for something, someone, somewhere, or the whole world. Because there's no one. What does it mean? The absolute truth of the truth. No one. So what is there? A reality. There must be only just seeing, no one at all, and nothing at all. At the moment when it appears as it is. And Panya realized that is so. What we said many, many times, no one and no one and no one. But when it's time to understand that, it's different from just hearing, considering about the truth right now, about the truth of no one now. That's why there can be the understanding of conditions as parami, otherwise impossible to realize the truth, which is so very certain right now. Never change, it's there to be known. In life, no matter what, no matter seeing, hearing, thinking, hardness or softness or taste or whatever, it's there to be known. Otherwise, it's gone instantly. But keep on hearing, having conditions to have firm confidence of right now, it's only that which can be known as it is. And it is that which Buddha had enlightened and taught about the truth of each moment, only a reality from moment to moment appearing and never to arise again after it's gone. So it's daily life. And Panya develops gradually to understand that which is now appearing, it's all that which can be known or realized is truth because it's there. Only that just right understanding develops gradually, not to forget about the truth of that which is now appearing as no one.
Yeah, you said understanding conditions as parami, as perfections. So for some people, it may be very useful if you could elaborate a little more about that point.
Because you see that we're talking about the absolute truth of what is there now, but it doesn't appear to ignorance and attachment. That's why at moment of understanding the absolute truth carefully, it's so true, no one, because what is there is only that which is experienced, only one object, one reality at a time, and the reality which arises to experience that particular object from moment to moment. So how can there be anyone? And right now, Panya develop as part of accumulated little by little. Nothing to do like try so hard to think about this or to do that, because it's not a matter of Panya. If one takes it for something to do, it's I who do, but there's no one. So what is there? Be patient to understand that it's there as it is, but it does not appear to ignorance as it is at all, because ignorance does not understand anything about it at all. Nothing. That what is that which is seen in truth? Can it be other thing rather than that which is experienced as different colors, one at a time in life? So in life, all moments of absolute realities that should be studied carefully to be known. And that moment, right understanding, letting go itself by itself, when there is understanding, no matter at what level, even intellectual understanding, it let go the idea of something.
And
But
what are the relation with parami? You mentioned patience for one of the perfections, but about the other paramis or perfections.
when there is the understanding more precisely, firmly, that what is there now can be realized, that is Adidana Barami. Only that which is now appearing is the object of understanding of the truth of that which appears. And this is Panya Barami, understanding the truth with confidence and with Adidana, see, never change to other object or to do something, but to understand that it's not time to understand it, but there can be the development of understanding the truth from hearing again and again and again until it can condition moment of even thinking about it, just thinking about that which appears as it is the object of understanding, because it's there by conditions and it's not there all the time. It's gone, unknown, and arise unknown, disappear unknown. But the truth is that is truth that can be known. Otherwise, what else are there in the world right now? Only that which appears to be known as that which cannot experience, or that which can experience by different manners and different characteristics and different function. All about the truth of what is there in daily life. from moment to moment, having such understanding firmly, it is confidence of the truth.
And Ajahn, when you say the truth of what there is in daily life, we're talking about different realities, like seeing an invisible object and hearing and sound and thinking. And can we say that every moment of understanding of different realities, awareness and understanding helps to chip away at the wrong view of self and gradually leads to the eradication of all wrong view?
That's right. That's it.
So it's useful to be reminded that there are just different realities arising and falling away at the present moment.
And what are they? See,
Yeah, the usual suspects.
it's a reality because it's life at that very moment, conditioned to suspect. No matter what, it's conditioned to be only that for a moment, very shortly, and then gone. Just begin to have confidence of the truth, and that is parami. Satya parami, to be truthful to the truth. Otherwise, how can there be moment of beginning to understand better and better of that which appears as that which is seen? See, it's that which is seen, that's it. Because it's seen by what? That which arises just to see it.
But what generally appears is the thinking about the seeing also.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What is there now, right now? Seeing. There is that which is seen for sure.
There must be seeing and that which is seen, yes.
Mm-hmm. And part of me is not forgetful about the truth. No matter it is wholesome reality or unwholesome reality, they are real when they are there. And why do we talk about just daily lives? Just hardness because it's there now. Is it time to understand that it can appear as it is? Nothing else at all. Only that. Only that. So what it means, only that. See, different worlds, not as the world of things and peoples all around, all the time, but just one characteristic, because it's there when it appears, just one only. In a moment. And as is so true, right understanding begin to understand the truth of it little by little. What is there now? See, it doesn't it. What is there now? But usually we think about other things because not enough understanding of the truth of just one reality at a time. So we talk about just one reality from time to condition moment of directly understanding it. As seeing right now, just talk about it in order to understand the moment of seeing. It now sees, it now sees. Gradually understanding the truth that what it's meant by it, not I or anything, only seeing itself. So it's a reality which can experience only that which is seen. All in one's life, seeing cannot be changed at all. Just
And
talk
John,
about
you said a moment ago that usually we think about other things, but of course there'll always be thinking, won't there, about other things not related to what is appearing at the present moment, but because of the reminders that we've had, there can be thinking about there can be some remembering about the importance of the present moment, as well as thinking about other things. So we don't have to, I'm just stating the obvious, we don't have to change our way of thinking in any way, except that we have these reminders that help us to bring us back to the present moment from time to time.
Yes, Ajahn, when we have all these reminders about seeing right now, and it's only seeing that is there, and all that helps us to take it in the right way when we hear there is nobody there. All these explanations are really necessary.
Because there are so many reminders, but not about reality, see, in daily life. That's why whatever is there in daily life can be talked about, the truth of it. And that is conditions to get closer and closer to understand the truth. Because right now, there are many realities arising from moment to moment, unknown, as it's not as it is, like people and thing at all. So at this moment of seeing, we can talk about seeing, and at the other moment, we can talk about that very moment as it is, as a reality. In daily life, whatever is there can be known. The truth, we can talk about hunger, we can talk about seeing, we can talk about everything, no matter it's seen or whether it's experiences, they are there by conditions. So it's time to develop right understanding at moment of discussing about the truth of whatever is there. And after that, it depends on conditions, whether they can condition the moment to read about the truth or to talk about it or to be aware, all by conditions. What hasn't been developed before as right understanding will gradually object of thought by conditions, by accumulation. It's so natural because it's not that. And right understanding knows how much understanding of the truth, or begin with it's there, it's so true, it can be known from moment to moment. And that can be the reminder for it's there now to be known, no matter what. Otherwise, there must be a moment that takes one's way from what is close as seeing, hearing, thinking, hardness right now.
Betty, are you trying to speak? You've
Yes.
politely been sitting with your hand up.
Yes, I did. I put that raise the hand thing on.
Carry on.
Yes. One of these, I guess, political commentators that I listen to, for some reason, he was starting to talk about Eastern religions, and he talked about Dhamma, karma. He calls it karma. He said Dhamma. He talked about karma, and he felt that in such societies, when one can, of course, his whole idea of karma was totally ignorant, but he said that when one has the belief in karma, that this would engender less care, giving, and so forth to other people, because people will say, well, I shouldn't have to have any care for him because he received the results of his karma, he deserved it. So that was his criticism of what he termed Eastern religion. He didn't mention Buddhism, but that's exactly what he was referring to. And I would like to write this man a very polite answer. And I guess I would like some ideas other than what I'm thinking in my mind as to how I should answer this man, and sadly in his ignorance of actually how Dhamma works.
I think firstly, the question is, what is karma? Because if there is no understanding of different realities, as we've been talking about, as dharmas which are not self, how can there be any understanding of what karma is? So the question is, what reality is karma? Because people have an idea about a story, a situation of karma, but is there any understanding that karma is chaitana arising at this very moment? And it arises with every chitta performing its function, coordinating and conditioning the other namas that it arises with. And at moments of kusala or akusala, there is the chaitana, the karma that wills the kusala or akusala, but only when it's strong enough can it be the karma that can bring results in future.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, if there's no understanding of dharmas, then there cannot be the understanding of what karma is. And on the question about helping those who are in trouble or experiencing the results of past karma, it doesn't matter at the moment of kindness, at the moment of giving, at the moment of understanding, the chitta is kusala. So at the moment of saying, well, it's just their result, no need to do anything, what kind of chitta is it at that moment? Is there any kindness? Is there any giving? Is there any understanding? Is there any sympathy? So it comes back to the chitta at this moment, the kind of thought about the other. So no matter what the circumstances or what has led to what result, when there is kindness, one would like to help if there's an opportunity. So if someone is injured, we can say the pain is a result of past karma, but wouldn't the kind chittas like to help find a band-aid or give some support or words of kindness? So it is the kusala now that conditions more kusala and leads to more kusala karma, which will in turn bring its results later.
Right,
So,
you said so beautifully. But this man seems to believe that the belief in karma itself will not encourage people to have dana or metta. That's his. He didn't use those words. That basically was his idea. And
it's like an excuse not to have kindness, not to be generous, not to sympathize with the other's difficulty or disturbance by just saying, well, it's the result of their karma, so no need to do anything. So it's like an excuse not to have kusala at this very moment.
Right, exactly. It's an excuse to have kusala. But I would like to set the guy straight a little bit, because he feels he's an expert on Judaism.
Well, you could point out that the same teaching that teaches about karma also teaches about the benefit of having wholesome, good wishes for others and helping people who are suffering. So, and there's not any conflict in those two aspects of of the
I
teaching.
mean, he thinks Buddhism, therefore, would not encourage helpfulness because of the belief in karma.
Well, that's the implication from what he seems to be saying.
I'm saying what he says.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas in fact, it is encouraged. All kinds of kusala are encouraged. And
Of course.
one could also point out that if an individual, if he was suffering in some manner, would he want other people to not give assistance because it's just his bad karma?
Yeah.
Yes, I think there is a lack of patience to consider all these aspects. And here the perfection of patience comes in. One has to consider each word, the meaning of karma and the intensity of karma. So many aspects.
Right. I was trying to think out my answer to this guy, and thank you for saying it far better than I can, especially Sarah. I was just so shocked at the ignorance, but then that's the normative nature of human beings.
But then it comes back to our Chitta. When we have expectations, other people will have a certain understanding. So when we're shocked or don't like what they say, there can be understanding even then, that it's just different kinds of dosa conditioned by having the expectations and the clinging. But when there's metta and kindness, it can find a way to help.
Yes, exactly. And that's universal. And I mean, this is another point. He cannot say that the followers of X religion have less feeling for and giving than other people, than other religions, because it's all universal. All of the laws of karma, etc., realities, everything, it's universal. Okay, I think I'm clearing up a way to say it in my mind.
And Eve's got her hand up now, it's catching. Carry on, Eve.
I'll put mine.
Yes, I know that from last week's discussion, I had a nudge to say something about when I first came to Ajahn. I'd been through a few teachers and meditation and Zen and various things. And when I had a question, when there was ignorance, it's the understanding that let's go the ignorance, that eradicates ignorance, one word at a time. And Ajahn's responses to my questions, I find, have been consistently respectful. There's been metta and patience in explaining, and respect for my intelligence. And I can see that these are the guidelines to responding to this teacher or to this man who could possibly be teaching other people such an error. So even though he has ignorance about this word, it seems like those are the good guidelines for responding to anyone's ignorance. So I appreciate the question. Please excuse me. Thank you.
No, thank you. That's very, very good and very helpful. Thanks.
There was a comment the other day I found a good reminder. In one of the discussions, we were talking about different interests. So everyone has different interests. We may have interest in understanding about realities. Other people have interest in shopping or in different scientific theories, or so many different interests. But when one understands about dharmas as conditioned, there can be more understanding, more sympathy for different interests that are not the same as ours, or different interpretations. and more sympathy for the ignorance which has been accumulated too. So I think the understanding of dhammas that are conditioned leads to what Eve was talking about, the respect for the way of thinking and the consideration of what may be helpful for the other with kindness. But when it comes to karma, if there's no understanding of different realities, no understanding of what is nama and what is rupa at this moment and what is karma now, then there will be long, long stories about karma and the results of karma and the flooding in Thailand and the problems in Ukraine and this and this and this, but actually no understanding at all about what karma is and what is the result of karma if there's no understanding of reality at this moment. Ajahn, would you like to add any more to Betty's question and points?
Can we ask that person whether it's polite to ask some questions about karma? See, if one talk about karma, is it polite to ask what more about karma to be understood? Because just you talk about karma without understanding clearly what karma is it useful? No matter to whom or when, the best thing in life is to help or to have that person understand a little bit more when we know that how much he understands about that. For example, karma. What is it? Can we ask? We'd like to understand more about karma. Just use the word karma, but what is karma? Can we say, or can we ask that person to explain a little bit more? Otherwise, just talk about karma while one has no understanding what karma is at all.
Yes.
Just one word to share or to know how much understanding about that word or that reality is. We can say, is this moment also karma, and so on? Any question to be thought about, to consider it carefully. That it's not just the word, but the truth of it. Otherwise, we are not good fit to that person at all, to anyone. It's not wrong to ask about something that you would like to know, because that person used the term karma. So we'd like to understand more about what is it, rather than follow the word karma without understanding the truth. As being a good friend, we can help as much as we can do. To have someone to have a little more understanding, if it's possible. And we can ask many questions about just one reality, one word. Like, what is karma? Is it now karma? What kind of karma? And so on. And the result of it. What moment is the result of karma? Because we talk about cause and result. If the person appreciates discussion to understand the truth, it's time to talk about it a little more, little by little. To think about what is the absolute truth. there is karma, but what is karma? Through speech or deeds of mind or what?
I was also thinking, what is the result of karma now? And I used to have, as is common, I guess, more connotation of karma with stories. But if we take it back to now, what is the result of karma now? It's so simple. It's seeing. It's a moment of hearing. It's a moment of tasting or touching or smelling. And that puts it in a such different perspective. It doesn't have to be a story of something bad or good happening. It's just the Vipakachita at this moment, and maybe that's helpful too.
And we can understand more about the absolute truth. For example, seeing is a result of karma, right? So what is seeing? Again, it's now. Bring it back to this moment, little by little, to begin to think about the most valuable or precious moment. Not just the word, but the reality right now, as we have heard. Or we can say, what else is the result of karma? To understand how much understanding of the truth of that person. And who can tell what karma conditioned this moment of seeing? Can the karma be known, and can the result be known as it is, the absolute truth?
Betty, do you have any comments or responses to
Okay.
those suggestions?
I have to thank everybody because it's been, it helped me formulate in my mind better how to answer this guy. I mean, I was thinking already of explaining what GAM actually is and how it works, how everything one sees, hears, etc. is action. GAM means action. So I was going to explain all these things to him, and I wanted to hear from some ideas. But I like the idea that one, it should be done respectfully to the man, absolutely, because he is a very, very erudite man, and I have respect for this particular person, except for this particular opinion of his, and. Who can tell, as the John just said, who can tell what result actually came from which karmic action? We cannot, we're not at a level of understanding to know that. A Buddha can know that, and somebody who has some level of enlightenment can know that, but I certainly can't, neither can this guy. And so these are just some of the things that I can put together, at least in an answer to this man. That I would have to write rather than speak to him.
And the difficulty is that when someone already thinks they know what is karma, for example, in this situation, or that they're quite learned, and then we just try to tell them where it's wrong and try to tell them what is the truth about karma and give a detailed explanation, they may not wish to listen at all because they already think they know it. But if we gently probe and ask questions, then they can begin to consider carefully for themselves, like, what is karma right now? Is there karma at this moment of seeing? What about when thinking now? What is karma? What does it belong to anyone, or is it just a mental factor? By asking questions and helping the other consider, then they may become more interested to discuss further and consider further, rather than just turning away from us because they don't want to hear a lecture, they don't want to be told what is true. But so anything to help them consider more, I think, is most useful. But it takes patience and skill, of course.
It does. And I always feel I'm not skilled in teaching the Dhamma. But
and sometimes because of our impatience, or even because of conceit or other factors, it's like one doesn't take the time to really question and help in the most patient manner. But even that's conditioned.
Exactly. Another thing this man says is that if you don't believe in God, then there is no morality. I mean, so I respect him in other areas except religion, but anyway, so but I like that. To use the idea of asking questions and so forth. And I think in the process of trying to formulate an answer for him, it will also help me to have greater understanding at the same time. So that's good.
And again, what is the God now? Can there be experience of God now? What is morality at this moment? At moments of kindness or moments of generosity, is that morality? Or at moments of not wishing to, or not thinking one should help those experiencing the result of karma, is that morality? What is morality at this moment?
Oh, that's a good one.
So one can just ask a few questions to help probe and help him consider more.
Yeah. Okay, thanks so much.
I think that's what I'm learning here a lot, how to discuss in a respectful way.
Yeah.
And the thing that helps me a lot is that very often you all put it into a question, where I was used to say, well, that is that. And that is what you have is that, and what you have. And that's also very ignorant and arrogant. And I didn't know how to else maybe do it. But if we put it in a question, then it's not an accusation, and we're not defensive, and we're not pretending to know what chitas are going on for the other. And it's an invitation maybe to, as you say, help someone gently to consider, to probe. So for me, it's very helpful as well, as I'm listening to all of you, how you approach each other.
Actually shows an interest to understand the other's way of thinking, rather than just saying, no, that's all wrong. But okay, why do you think like this? Why do you think that if someone doesn't believe in God, there is no morality? What does this mean? What about now? What is morality at this moment? So just step by step, otherwise there cannot be any discussion. It's just like two different ideas.
Is it impolite to just ask Does God see? When someone talk about God,
Does God, sorry, I didn't hear that real clearly, John. Does God see?
yes, just simple question.
Uh-huh.
In order to know who
Say
God
yes, God sees. He would say,
instead of ask what is God, we can we say, does God see? So what's the answer? We can continue on from then if one is true to the truth.
if I were to ask him, does God see? He would say yes.
Does God hear?
Yes, according to
The difference
yes.
the moment of seeing and hearing. What is God? Is seeing God, I'm hearing God, or what?
Sorry, say that again.
Is hearing God, is seeing God,
Mm.
because God sees, God hears, and we hear and we see. So what is the difference? I don't know whether it will lead to better understanding or conversation or discussion, but it can be a question for anyone who believes in God or anything can think about the truth.
Very difficult to formulate the right questions in terms of God or his belief in it. I'll try.
It's so natural when someone believes in something or respect something, there can be question about that. The virtues of that should be respected and so on, just to understand. Is it impolite? Useful question or not useful to think about? To find out the truth.
No, I think it is not impolite.
So that person, for that person, it depends on his interest to understand or just to believe. All are different. For us, we just do not want just to believe, but to understand the truth. But for the others, depending on conditions and accumulation. That's why we have to understand or to know the person who we talk with.
If life is consciousness, I don't know from his perspective, but if life is consciousness and God is life, I could ask him to consider God as gift of Dhamma.
So we can ask him, I think. The person who believes in something, can we ask about the virtues that person believes or respect? If we ask about the virtues of the Buddha, we can talk about his great wisdom, about what appears now, who knows, but Buddha enlightened the truth, and we can talk about what is made by enlightenment too, because we do not just believe. But we should understand that which we respect. Otherwise, it's only just belief. No matter who.
I would like to be very careful when talking about God, because different people have different ideas. They think God is the highest truth, or God is love. And so it depends what they mean by God. So I like to be careful. It's not a question of being
This
polite.
person believes God is as presented in the Torah, or the first 5 books of the Old Testament. So for him, I guess God would be the epitome of love, the epitome of understanding of it. And I mean, I've always wanted to ask people like that. If they claim that God is a creator, okay, and that so everything that is created, it comes from God. But supposedly human beings have what is called free choice, which we know doesn't quite exist. But this is what they believe, and you know, I was thinking, explaining about that as well. But if I were to ask him, is God conscious, he would definitely say yes. And one of the questions I wanted to ask him is, does he believe that if God created everything, okay, is it not possible that God created a way for man to develop understanding and eventually, after eons, say, become enlightened? And what enlightenment might be. I mean, this is something else I could talk to you about, something like that. But I would prefer having a one-to-one conversation with the man, but I don't think that's possible. But anyway, you've given me some various questions that I can ask, and so I will attempt to talk to him. Okay, thanks very much, everyone.
Betty, Azita here. That's great that you've brought that topic up, because some of my family members are Muslim, and there's always a really big thing about Allah. And I've often wondered how to go about quizzing a little bit more without being disrespectful.
Exactly right.
So this has been, I've got some good clues from this discussion also. So yes, thank you, Betty.
Exactly. Thank you. Exactly.
Thank you.
This is the same thing I feel. Whether I'm discussing it with Jews or Muslims or Christians or anyone else. And it's really difficult because it's totally different mindset, It's a totally different mindset of viewing the world. And as John says, we can, with wisdom, I guess, we can find the way to politely question them properly to get to a point where they start thinking about these things, about what karma actually is. Did God create karma? How can possibly God know, for instance, if they believe that he does, But how can possibly God know every single action going on the entire face of the
Yeah,
planet
exactly.
for eons and eons? Every little teeny action that one takes, raising one's hand, writing down something, whatever, how in terms of the conventional sense of the word, because they don't know about the.
Betty, why don't you ask Jyotika? Is Jyotika still here?
Jyotika.
Lots of experience here.
Jyotika?
Yes.
So is this because both Azita and I have, we're close to people who have a very different conception of God and reality, okay? And to try to explain to them, especially to this particular gentleman that I know. I don't know him personally, I know him on the tube. This particular person, they have a wrong view of other people's religions. Like, for instance, in this case, he has a wrong view of karma. And for Azita, she's dealing with her relatives, how to explain or ask them questions in such a way that she's showing some understanding of where they're coming from, and at the same time getting them to think about how reality manifests when one believes in God, say, something like that. Jyotika, it was just suggested to me that you might wish to say something about it.
I hear, but my story is all about God.
I see. May I ask what religion you are? Came from?
Catholic.
Sorry?
Catholic.
Catholic. Okay. And
but I would like very much that we talk, that we, as we are here, if it is possible, that we talk what God means for you and for me. Maybe you are not raised with God, but
I was.
I think a lot of people are raised with God.
Originally Jewish, okay? So I was raised with God.
Yeah.
But
so then you have.
I always had. I always questioned whether there actually was a God, at least as is described in the Old Testament. Okay, the first five books of the Old Testament. I've always had a sense of, I don't want to call it dissatisfaction, but let's say unfulfillment with my own religion. And sorry, what's that? Okay. So I never had, I tried to find answers in it. I used to go to when I was in high school, I used to go on Friday nights to the Jewish services, hoping to find an answer. But I never did until actually meeting John. So,
but I mean, then you have gone through a process that there was a lot of change in yourself, maybe.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
And that's what has happened and is happening with me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think the question I am so far to ask, if people believe in God, that's very that's very important for people.
Yeah,
it is very dear and very very special. I can understand that Ajahn is asking, is it polite to ask, because there's kind of voorzicht, what I feel. For a kind of.
It's very yes, it's very difficult. As I was just saying, I was just saying basically the same thing that you just said. it's very difficult because their whole mindset is so totally different.
Yeah, that's true. There's the whole life, this whole world, and seeing world and people and everything. Yes, but I went through it, I think, for a whole part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And I can talk about myself when someone is asking me or trying to I do not go in a dispute, I hope, but I try to ask, indeed, I think this is very, when you ask what does God mean to you? What does God mean to you? And
yeah,
no one can say, and no one can say exactly what.
It's a difficult question for those people who do believe in God, because according to the Jewish belief, nobody could really understand God.
Yeah.
Totally, truly.
Yeah. Yeah, but
because he's so beyond human comprehension, they believe, that none of us could really understand. But what I found very interesting in Judaism is that their way of understanding God further is very similar to what Ajahn teaches in terms of reading and then contemplating, deeply thinking, considering. They do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I was very surprised. I did not think they did this. The husband of one of my friends explained this to me. And I said, that's an excellent thing. So for them, there is that kind of if you want to call it investigating. They have that, but then again, it's to understand the nature of God and what God does. It's not to understand the nature of reality as we see it.
But for me, it was a very great help to hear that atta means, that atta begrip is a kind of God begrip.
That what is a kind of God? I'm sorry?
Atta.
Begrip is a meaning.
The meaning of atta, that it is a God, a meaning of God.
Oh, the meaning of God. Okay.
And that the difference between the religions is the difference between the meaning people have about where world and is coming from. And that if there is
the people who
independent entity
believe that God actually does play a role in human life, that God can influence.
I don't at the moment. At the moment, I don't think that the God plays a role.
But that's
God doesn't play a role anymore.
That's the way that's the way I think religious Jews think of it. That God plays a role in human history.
Yeah, but God plays a very big role. It's true. It's also for behavior and for.
And in Christianity, it's God allowing a way for what is called salvation.
You go back to God.
But which I've never understood exactly what the Christian concept of salvation meant. But for me, I mean, getting back to Dhamma. I guess if one wishes to talk with, let's say, a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian or any other religion, I think the idea that John has is that clarifying terms first, clarifying those terms first. How do we see what is God? What is Dhamma, karma? Okay, what are the various? What are conditions? What are realities? What are because those people have no conception of that. All they conceive of is the conventional world. They have no idea of the world of realities, 6 worlds. They have no idea of this. And getting them to see that is very difficult unless they have some moment of insight, what we would call in English. It's very difficult. That's why I very rarely discuss Dhamma with people who are not.
I find it difficult that it is open on YouTube to speak about it.
It is open
on YouTube.
We're not allowed to speak about it, or we are.
I find it difficult that this discussion is open on YouTube.
I won't comment on it because YouTube is controlled by a certain group of people.
This is for the whole world.
Well, the whole world is. And they only want a certain way of thinking, and anything that goes against that particular way of thinking, they would like to
Betty, I think Jyotika is referring to the fact that what we're saying now was being broadcast live on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
anyone
yes,
can
please.
listen. That's what she's talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So right, and I hope more people will listen to what we say every week.
Well, for some people like Jyotika, it's a limiting factor. So she doesn't feel able to speak her mind as she might do if it was a closed discussion.
Yeah.
Is it possible to make it a little bit close or not? Jonathan, is that possible? Then you stop the recording, huh?
I don't know who controls it, but
The host.
I think the for Ajahn and the Thai people, they like the idea of it being open to anyone who wants to listen.
Okay.
I think the point is that we are talking about dhammas, different realities, which is not personal experiences. So it's not about one's own experience and whether one believes in God or not, but what are the realities at this moment? So at the moment of thinking about God, what is the reality right now? Is it seeing, is it hearing, or is it just thinking? Or now at the moment when one feels a bit emotional or worried or nervous, what is the reality? So we're just talking about different dhammas, because in truth, none of the realities belong to anyone. The ideas don't belong to that man that Betty mentioned, or to the Muslims, or this people or those people. There are just different moments of thinking, different kinds of interest, different realities arising and falling away. But while there is clinging to oneself and the idea of my beliefs and my ideas, there's also clinging to the idea of other people and their beliefs and their ideas. This is not the understanding of Dhamma at this very moment. So seeing now is just a reality which arises and sees what is visible. It's not my seeing or not someone else's seeing. And same with thinking. The thinking now is quite different from a moment of thinking a few moments ago. So it's different at each moment, just different dhammas arising and falling away. And the truths about these realities are universal. This is why the Buddha's teachings are just the same now as at that time. And this is why it is an open fist. The teaching about different realities is for anyone who can appreciate it.
And I think this also partly answers, Jyotika, your comment, because we're not here to open our heart to tell people about our life story. We're here to discuss what is real at the present moment. And that can be done without reference to how we came to be here or how we were brought up or whatever. Now, these things are of interest if we want to have a conversation about those things with someone. We'd prefer to do it not in a public forum, but I think the fact that it is a public forum helps us to keep on track here. As Sarah said, it's all about what is real at the present moment. So rather than get into personal stories, we are keeping it to what is useful, and that is what is the truth for everybody, regardless of how they came to be here at this moment or listening on YouTube.
I also find it very useful. Sorry, Eve, that Jyotika said what helped her was atta, and the meaning of atta. And I don't have further comment, but it sticks with me. So maybe it does have a comment.
Because while
When
there
I-
is sorry, Jyotika, go ahead.
When I understood that atta means an independent entity, then I thought that is what is seen with God. That's the same as God, an independent entity. And that atta is not real. That atta is not existing. So then the whole story about God changed enormously. So, and we speak about no atta, non-atta, geen atta. And it all fits. It is very clear. But it is a big change. Big change in seeing things. But with the atta idea is just an explanation how I dare to say in the end that there is no God in that sense. So then you can say I should not say something personal, but that is the big thing. That is the big change.
Anatta instead of.
Actually, I think, Jyotika, it's the same for everyone, because without the Buddha's teachings, there's always the idea of atta that's been accumulated for aeons and aeons. And it's only when there's the beginning of understanding that there is no one here, no thing here that is seen, then one can appreciate that just as there is no eye that sees, no eye that hears, so there is no one else that sees, no one else that hears, no one else that has control over life, because there are just these different dharmas.
Yeah, that was the next step.
No thing that is seen. But while there is clinging to the idea of I, there will be clinging to the idea of other beings, other gods, other entities, other kinds of control. So it seems like it's a personal story, a development of beginning to consider wisely and understand. But it's the same for everyone, even in the Buddha's times, without hearing and considering that there are just different realities, moments of seeing, moments of hearing, no one to see, no one to hear. There couldn't be the development of that understanding. So it's just the same, only one path to develop understanding, no matter what one's background, no matter what one's upbringing. There has to be the hearing and the considering wisely and reflecting about the different realities to consider what is it that one takes for oneself, what is it that one takes for the other being.
And I asked Betty to maybe question Jyotika, because to me, and also today, Jyotika shows such a respect and brings everything in such a respectful way. And I of course don't know the personal story, but I do sense the big respect. Although there has been a big change in Jyotika's life, there's still a big respect. And that is what we were talking about, and the parami and the kindness and the patience. And I think you've shown us this, and you are beautifully, Jyotika. So it's a big gift that you have been speaking publicly. And if everyone would approach it like this, there wouldn't be any wars about this.
Yeah.
Jyotika, if I could just, well spoken, Shanti. Jyotika, if I could just add something for consideration, and that is that it's really not necessary to decide whether there is or isn't a God, because what we are interested in coming to understand is what is real at the present moment, can be directly experienced, can be known, has a characteristic. And it's whatever background we come from and beliefs, we come to understand that we assume a lot of things in our daily life, in our life. We assume that maybe our belief in a God was an assumption, or is an assumption, rather than a verified reality. A bit like a child might believe in Father Christmas or the Easter Bunny. It seems to be real. It's feasible. In the case of the Father Christmas belief, they get the presents, and it seems to confirm what the belief is. But we come to understand the difference between a belief that is a belief and something that can be known directly. And what is important is just developing more understanding of what can be directly known and understood. And that way we don't have to worry about anything else that may or may not exist.
Precisely, pretty much a moot point, but this discussion is not anything about getting people to see or change their beliefs or doctrines or anything like that. A belief, a concept is a concept. Concepts are not real. Thinking is real. And this discussion is about Dhamma, truth, reality. Thank you.
When I first came to Ajahn, I talked about the belief in God. And Ajahn just said, what is true will reveal itself, that's all. So we did not discuss this any further, but we just talked about realities and no discussion at all.
And I suppose gradually over time, your appreciation of what is worth considering or thinking about changed, Nina, without having to make any decision about it.
Yes. No need for arguing or discussing, just to talk about realities. That is all. It was never any trouble, really.
And it's actually the answer to every point, because by discussing and considering more about realities, then the way becomes revealed on its own. So one doesn't have to talk about different theories or ideas, but by considering more about realities, then it becomes clear.
Deciding something about this.
Yeah.
No arguing at all.
Alan, it reminds me, now I can see you back in the picture. I remember last year sometime, I think it was also on Zoom, you had quite a long and actually quite almost heated discussion with Ajahn about science. And this may be of interest to Shanti too, because she also comes from a physics background. And you were saying that science is more advanced than in many ways because of the knowledge of medical issues and this and that and what have you, and it has its advantage and so on. And Ajahn was stressing, I remember, that actually they're just all long stories and ideas about being advanced and so on. And what about always coming back to the reality now? And it also reminds me of another discussion Robert had in when we were in Vietnam one time, and he was also talking about how, well, scientific ideas are better than other religions at least. And Ajahn was stressing, actually just the same, because it's the world of concepts, the world of ideas, the world of stories. And again, it has to come back to the understanding of this moment. And when helping people with that background, again, one can ask questions and help them to consider more about the truth at this moment, because otherwise there's always the idea of how it's more advanced and so on. Do you have any comments? Remember that conversation?
Yes, I mean, obviously I come from a physics background. I think the word physics means knowledge of nature. So sometimes when I see questions about is Buddhism a philosophy or religion, I say, well, actually, it's a type of physics because it's about knowledge of nature. I think that it takes, because we're so ingrained with science, to in a few minutes, well, a few years, to overturn that, because actually physics, the science of physics, it has no understanding of reality at all. So it's not as if Einstein had any understanding of reality, it's just zero, because the object of the understanding in science is just an idea, and it takes a long time to actually come to the conclusion that it has zero understanding of reality. And yeah, so I go along with what Ajahn Sachin's saying. It's just the world of ideas and concepts, but it has zero understanding of reality, because the object of the understanding in science is not a reality. It's never a reality. It's just an idea. So, but that takes a long time to sort of get over that, because it's a belief which is takes a long time to get rid of, I guess, or to lessen.
Just like any other belief, like any belief in a being or a controller or anything else, it's just another set of beliefs. And even if there's no, just the same way, but there's the idea often that it's a superior set of beliefs, but actually it's still just thinking about different ideas, thinking about the ideas more advanced.
I find it quite difficult to understand exactly what science is, because fundamentally it seems to be flawed because of this idea of something, because you touch, what is touched is hardness. But the scientist has the idea, as everybody has the idea, that it's something, it's a table, and inside the table there are molecules and chemicals or whatever. So it's fundamentally flawed, I guess, because if you listen to science, you cannot understand the reality which is touched. And it's like overlooking the obvious. It's like sort of somebody who has lost his glasses and they're on top of his head. You're not developing an understanding of reality.
Alan, I think I don't think science is a reality, but what I like about science is that there is, in the conventional sense, the willingness to drop views, and that's a good training to eventually, by understanding, because that's the thing, it's conventional, it's theoretical. And for me, Buddha is a scientist that I would follow. And it's the same thing, because if we were capable by any means of realizing the realities like the Buddha, then we'd all take that for science. So for me, it's a science as well. And there are many scientists today who still work with conceptual things like atoms, or I don't know, perception, but they say they know that they don't know anything about reality, and that they're just for sake of conventional life taking some standards, but they do, and that's the big thing, what you say, confess or admit they cannot possibly know. And that's what I'm interested in. They cannot possibly know what really is real, because it's all made up. And that's what I find so interesting, the willingness to drop ideas when something new is revealed. And of course, nothing is revealed yet, but I like this willingness to drop ideas.
But Chanti, what is that willingness? Is it panya? If it's not panya, then it's just more attachment.
But if I didn't have the...
Is there not the attachment to the idea of the method of science?
No, I mean, if I didn't have the willingness, I wouldn't have dropped the idea of God. I wouldn't have dropped the idea of a me, and all that.
Yeah, but now that you have heard the Dhamma, wouldn't you want to know whether that willingness was actually understanding? That's what matters, doesn't it? It comes down to understanding, and if it's not understanding, it's some wrong view or the other.
Yeah, but it's like maybe there's a new Buddha who said, well, you're still in the conceptual world of Paramattha Dhammas, and there's another one, you know, there has to be willingness again to consider.
I don't think that being a scientist makes you necessarily willing to consider, because the scientists have beliefs unknowingly, and those beliefs prevent them from listening to Buddhism. You'll be hard pressed to find one scientist who has an understanding of Dharma like you do. And that's an awful lot of scientists will reject what we're saying now because of their beliefs. For example, karma. Many people believe that karma, it's not right, or it can't be proven, and that will prevent them from listening. So
again, I think we can't generalize. I'm just speaking for me. Like what helps Jyotika is the idea of atta, and I just see how it went for me. But I cannot say like for religion or for scientists. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what helped me. So I'm not speaking for all.
But I think that that scientists, they have beliefs. The belief in the idea of self or something. It's a belief as well, isn't it? Which is really hard to get over, this idea of something, but also the belief in permanence, the idea that things last, a tree lasts, or a rose lasts, or a table lasts. That's a fundamental, it's a belief, and that's a very entrenched belief, a belief which is difficult to overcome, even to consider that actually this moment is impermanent is quite hard, I think. So I'm not so sure that scientists are any better placed than anyone else, really. I mean, I haven't sort of found it because I do talk a lot to scientists about it, and there's always something which holds them back. But one thing which holds people back, I think, is the fact that Buddhism isn't something that you get in 10-minute conversation. It takes a long time to get an idea of it. And so you might have a chance to talk to somebody for 10 or 15 minutes, but that's not enough for them to be able to grasp what's happening. And it requires great skill in explaining things, which I get better at, but I'm not as good as Chancellor Jin or Sarah or Jonathan at explaining. They're getting very good, I think, at explaining in simple words to people who haven't understood before. It's a very difficult topic to explain, but I don't know. I think a lot of scientists have a lot of beliefs which prevent them. One belief is the belief in that science, that we learn more about life now, more about the world now than we did 2,500 years ago. That's quite entrenched in science to such an extent they won't even consider listening to the Buddha. So yes, everybody has beliefs. Scientists have beliefs.
Yeah, and it all comes back to now, right?
Yeah.
Not other things people think we can't think.
Yeah, and what Ajahn said, that the Buddhist needs to have confidence that sound is sound. It's so simple, that sound is sound, that hearing is hearing, that sound isn't a bird. And it's kind of so basic, but actually it's quite deep and subtle. So we need to have, the Buddhist has confidence that sound is sound, hearing is hearing, seeing is seeing, and touching is touching, and just different realities, no person there at all. It's quite straight. It's easy, but it's subtle and difficult to grasp what that means.
But
And
to me,
even if
Buddha is a
someone-
scientist.
I was going to say, even if someone says, and it may be a scientist or anyone, when someone says, well, I don't know what the truth is, or I don't know what is real, but it's still the idea of I who knows or doesn't know, or who is discovering. It's not the understanding at all of that there is no utter, as Jyotika mentioned, that it's just a moment of thinking now. It's still the idea that I can find the truth through my science or through my study or through this or that way.
But this morning I came in with the question, if an idea, is that a reality?
What is an idea now, Jyotika?
Is an idea a reality? Because one time I asked already Ajahn, what are the realities? What is reality? And then I think everything is reality. Citta, Cittasika, Rupa, and Nibbana, the four I learned.
So what reality is an idea? For example, an idea of Alan. What is the reality?
The thinking is a reality. Thinking.
The thinking is a reality. Thinking is real.
But what you think, is that a reality?
What? So
the thoughts,
you tell us. So the moment of thinking about Alan, thinking is real, but the idea of Alan, is it an idea or is it a reality?
Yeah, that's an idea.
It's just an idea that is thought about. So the thinking is real, but the idea is, in truth, there is no Alan, no person there, just like thinking about the table.
Yeah.
The thinking is real, but the idea of table is just the idea that is thought about. So the thinking arises and falls away. And when there's no thinking about table, no table. So but the thinking is the reality that arises and falls away, but the table is just the idea, the story that is thought about.
So is it then that ideas, that is not reality? No, I cannot hear you at the moment, Sarah.
I said exactly, because the idea is not Chitta, it's not Cetasika, it's not Rupa, It's just concepts, ideas
Yes, concept.
that are thought about.
The
So
same thing
the
as atta.
concepts are different from the realities.
So even an
Yes,
idea of a reality is a concept, not a reality.
So it is a conventional idea, a conventional reality. An idea. It's
So
yeah.
at this moment of thinking, no matter whether the thinking is about science or about computers or about Alan or about visible object, the thinking is real, but the idea is just an idea, a concept about
It's a concept, and that's a
a
concept.
concept about reality or a concept about an idea of reality. It doesn't matter what the idea is about, but it's different from the reality itself, the thinking at this very moment.
Then the atta idea is also a concept.
Exactly. That's why the atta is not real, because it's actually just an idea about something there.
Yes, and
An
then
idea about an Alan or an idea about table. These are different kinds of atta.
And then the atta has to do with permanence, with control.
So when there's
All ideas.
so there can be thinking about Alan without that idea, but when there's the idea of something there that lasts even a moment, then it is the idea of something that is permanent at that moment. So this is why we distinguish between the understanding of what is reality and what is concept. So the development of understanding is the understanding of the realities and seeing the ideas and the fantasies and the stories for what they are, different from the realities which are to be known at this moment.
May I go back to atta then? The atta idea. What is the atta idea? An independent entity, but it is also the idea of permanency, I thought.
Yes.
And of control. And that is anatta is no permanency, no control.
And even before there's an idea in words about someone there existing, there's, as soon as there's seeing of what is visible, so quickly there's the idea of something there, something that is seen, different colors, different shapes, different impressions. So there is the perceiving of atta all day long, so commonly.
Yes.
And there is the, like you say, when there's the idea of atta, there's the idea of something that lasts. It seems that what is seen lasts for many moments, many minutes. It seems light all the time because of the idea of something there.
Yes.
And I think the atta view can take many forms. So any view that's not correct is not a correct understanding of anatta is a kind of atta view.
Yeah.
So whether one's thinking about something that lasts or something that exists or something that has a soul, or it doesn't matter. It's all different kinds of atta view. We cannot define an atta view as such, because it's anything that's not a correct view of realities as they truly are.
Thank you.
Is it a hand now touching the computer? Is it something there? Is it my arm, my hand? It's the idea of atta. So whenever there's the idea that something is there, not just the understanding that actually it's just hardness that is touched, visible object that's seen. It's the idea of something. So it's now.
Or as I would say, it's a view about something. So it has to be like a belief of the way things are. There can be a concept of a hand without holding a particular view about its existence. There can be a concept of a table without having a view about its permanence or its existence as such.
So Jonathan's words are again to have cautions and not to say I reject concept, because we have accumulations to think of concepts, and not the Buddha did not tell to reject, but to listen again and again and slowly develop understanding. But I like Jonathan's words in the beginning that we better be careful.
And I think, Jotaka, the more understanding there is of the realities now, all these other, what seem like dilemmas and difficulties sort themselves out naturally, a little like Nina was saying, no need to talk about God or this or that, because the more understanding there is of reality, the more understanding there is of what is meant by reality as anatta, no atta, then all one's questions and the problems become solved anyway, very naturally.
Yes, to say no dilemma, it's not necessary to make it so difficult for ourselves, because as an Ajahn always says, it has to be a natural development in a natural way, not forcing ourselves.
And when there's the dilemma, the thinking is real, the doubt is real, the worry is real, but the story about, well, what about, does it mean for this and that, and whether there's God, and what about the religion, these are just different ideas. So it comes back again to the thinking now, the seeing now, the reality at this moment. I think it's time for Ajahn to add some comments, because we're beginning to run out of time.
So we are here to understand the absolute truth, not only just truth as we take, but the absolute truth. What is it? What does it mean? A reality, see, each word should be studied carefully in order to understand the absolute truth. And it's there now, in a moment, all the time, from birth to death. The absolute truth. If there's no understanding of the absolute truth, there must be the idea of self or I, because of ignorance, not understanding the truth. So how can there be right understanding which let go wrong understanding and ignorance about what is there? For the one who hasn't heard about the teachings of the truth at all, no idea about what is true, what is not true, and what is the not only true, but absolute truth. For example, science and so on. What is the absolute truth at that very moment? What is science? See, at that very moment. So the absolute truth is there in a moment, to be known as actually there is no one and no thing to be taken for what is there is last forever or for sometimes at all. Just like now, what is the absolute truth? We talk about seeing, why it is a truth, because it's there now, see. That's why it's so true. But what is its absolute truth? It doesn't last at all. It is there. It seems like it lasts, but actually, as soon as it arises to see it gone, instantly, so very, very rapidly. Is this not true? Because nothing seems arising and falling away, not permanent at all. It seems like it's so very permanent from morning up to now and on and on and on. See, that's why the understanding of the truth has to be at the moment when it's there. For example, we talk about seeing right now. It's so true. No matter who think about it, whether it's given or whether it's conditioned or whether it is created, it doesn't matter. But what is the absolute truth of that very moment of seeing? And this is the beginning to understand what is life and what is true in a day. Not knowing it is different from not knowing any truth of this moment at all. So we just learn to understand the absolute truth that is so true because it's there, and the truth of it can be directly experienced when there is more understanding to let go whatever seems like together as many things around, but in truth, only one moment, experience only one object, and by nimitta. That's why the truth is so very deep, very subtle, that we have to consider carefully to understand that actually there's no me, no one at all. And the moment of understanding the truth, it conditions moment of piti, different from moment of thinking about death. And we will lose everything at that very moment. But in truth, it's lost every moment. It doesn't last at all. Just from moment to moment, new one, new reality, never to return at all. And when there's letting go, the clinging to the self, the understanding of the truth is so very pity because it's so true. That's why I just learn to understand the deep, very subtle, but it can be learned to understand the truth little by little, little by little. That's all. Instead of trying so hard, it's not pity at all. At moment of trying to get something, but at moment of understanding and let go, wrong understanding and ignorance, it can condition little by little, unknowingly, the detachment and the letting go, the clinging to that as something, little by little. And this is the path of the Ariya Satya, the fourth path that Buddha showed us, no other way. So at this moment, all dhammas are developing at moment of understanding the truth of whatever is there. No choice at all. No wish, no hope, because it has a reason by condition before anyone can wish for it to arise. And this is true or not, to learn to understand the absolute truth of actually realities are realities. Seeing is seeing, hearing is hearing. No one there at all. Is that true? To have more confidence of the truth and understanding that this is not enough because it does not appear as it is yet. But right understanding can develop until moment of directly experience the truth and let go the idea of self stage by stage until moment of enlightenment, the Four Noble Truths. This is the absolute truth. That's why learning to have confidence of the truth, no matter what in a day, by conditions, no expectation to experience this or to understand that, all by conditions. And that is the parami. And there are other paramis too, because usually in a day there are conditions for akusala more than kusala, but understanding can make way to have more understanding, to let go ignorance and other unwholesomeness, because ignorance and unwholesome reality cannot understand whatever is there now. So it's a long way in samsara to understand the absolute truth, but it has to be from now, and from now again at moment of panya developed little by little, from hearing, considering. No one knows what moment will be the direct awareness with understanding. But when it's there, no doubt about it, no doubt about the truth that it appears or reveals itself to the developed panya to that degree. So just understanding by conditions together, understanding by conditions, not by I or anyone. And now there is understanding by conditions too, little by little. And that is the meaning of parami, in order to enlighten the truth, the absolute truth of what is there now. So we can talk about anything little by little to understand the truth. And once it's there, it develops each moment of understanding.
Sita, did you have anything you would like to say or ask about today before we finish? Sorry, we can't hear you, Sita.
The moment, no, I'm still considering. Thank you.
So Jyotika, usually when thinking about different ideas, we think the ideas, no matter it's about science or birds or chairs or tables or dreams, it seems that it's real. We live in that world of concepts, in that world of ideas, and take them for being true and real, like the tables and the chairs and the sofas and the different people around. But when there's the understanding that the thinking is real, but the ideas are just ideas, not realities, it really helps to understand what is meant by Dhamma as anatta, because only the different realities now arising and falling away can be understood, can be known.
But we live with this realities, but we live also in the world of the concepts.
Yes. So, and there has to be the understanding of the distinction. If there is not the understanding of what the realities are, there cannot be the understanding of what are ideas or concepts. They will always be taken for real, like the ideas about atoms and neurons and chairs and tables. They'll all be taken for real if there's not the understanding of the absolute reality, which we just heard about, like seeing. Some people think this is old-fashioned and the Buddha's teachings are out of date, but seeing the absolute reality is just the same at any time in life, at any age, no matter whether there's any understanding of it or not. It's always the absolute reality that arises and falls away, nothing in it at all. And the same with the visible object that's seen. no matter one's a Catholic or a Muslim or was born in the Buddha's time or now. Visible object is always just visible object, that which is seen, the absolute reality.
It is not a matter of that you have to suddenly give up conventional ideas, because Ajahn always reminds us little by little, so not at once. And I understand now better, like thinking of death, we may find it difficult to give up the personality, but it is a little by little you understand conditions. It's not a forced process.
And in truth, there's no I to give up or not give up the idea, because even the moment of thinking about whether I should give up this idea or not, again, the thinking is real, but the idea is just an idea, not the reality. So the understanding comes closer and closer to understanding the truth about the absolute realities now, however they are conditioned, no matter doubt or worry or fear or kindness or seeing or hearing, whatever appears unexpectedly that can be understood at this very moment. So all the teachings are for the understanding now at this moment.
And there's the truth in this moment. I cannot hear. She is talking. Achita. Saying something. Okay. Sarah, I cannot hear.
I said this is the piti, the wholesome joy that Ajahn mentioned, when there is understanding that life is just at this moment, that all the problems and difficulties and trying and so on, it's all gone. But at a moment of appreciating now what the absolute reality is at this moment, the world at this moment now, it is the letting go that we've talked about, the letting go of ignorance for that moment, the letting go of the idea of atta or someone who can do something, because there is the understanding of the world as it is at this very moment.
That's where the perfections come in. Perfection of renunciation, nikama, and the perfection of truthfulness, what is true. Ajahn always stresses the truthfulness. So the perfections are very important. They develop together with Panya.
Again, they're at this very moment, at the moment of understanding, of reflecting wisely about the absolute reality. At that moment, there is a little renunciation of what is wrong understanding, and there is truthfulness at that moment. So the paramis develop together with understanding right now.
It's good to stress, like Nina said, that we don't force understanding upon others either. And that's not kusala at all. I want to thank everyone for the great contributions.
Thank you all too.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ajahn. Sawadika.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ajahn.
everyone.
See you all
Ajahn.
next week.
A wonderful
Bye-bye.
discussion.